The following program is an original production of WICC PBS Chicago.
No quick fix. The battle over how to repair Chicago's pension crisis is in overdrive as Mayor Emanuel pushes a plan to spread the pain.
A group calls itself The Rescue. See how it's throwing a lifeline to homeless young adults in Chicago.
And police claim Chicago's crime rate is falling, but new reports suggest officers underreport assaults and murders. All of these stories and more on In the Loop. This evening, we're joined by Matt Dietrich, executive editor of Reboot Illinois. And Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris.
So those union employees obviously fear the city is going to break its promises, but does Mayor Emanuel have any other choice?
The way that things are going right now, you're looking at pension systems that in as soon as 10 years will have no money to disperse. That means retirees will stop getting checks. That means the members of those systems who are active employees now are looking at a retirement with no security whatsoever. It's a very bad situation, and I don't think Mayor Emanuel has any choice in this.
So it's so stark for those employees that they're better off taking a little bit of pain now in the form of a slower growth of COLA than to look down the road at 10 years when those pensions might be much less.
That's absolutely the way it is, and this is the way it played out at the state level back in December when the state passed its own pension reform.
Well, now in Springfield, the legislature has passed a pension reform, but they took out the property tax provision. Now Governor Quinn has to decide whether to sign it. Is he going to sign that in the middle of an election year?
I don't know that Governor Quinn has much choice but to sign it. Now, what happened in Springfield was this bill arrived from Mayor Emanuel, and it contained a provision that mandated a series of property tax increases for the city of Chicago. And where lawmakers objected was they said, hey, you can do this on your own, Mayor Emanuel and Chicago City Council. We don't want to be the scapegoats for forcing a property tax increase on you. We don't want you to tell your constituents that we made you do this. So then they took that language out, and that's how the bill passed. Governor Quinn, who 2 weeks ago gave a budget address in which he announced a plan to give every property taxpayer $500 refund checks, does not want to put his signature on a bill that then mandates a big property tax increase for homeowners in Chicago.
Is that why he's been so openly critical of the mayor's plan?
I think so, and I think part of it is you do have some election year politics going on here. However, for Governor Quinn to not sign this bill, you are really then creating a terrible, terrible situation for Chicago. I don't know how, this was not an easy vote. These pension reform votes have never been easy. And to veto this and start the process over, I think that would just be, I would call it irresponsible.
As you mentioned, the state legislators didn't want to be blamed for raising Chicago property taxes. Now it goes to the city council. They're going to have to decide whether to raise property taxes by a fair amount over the next 5 years, and they're all running for re-election. Are they going to be any more eager to do this?
No, they're going to be even less eager than the lawmakers in Springfield were to be on the hook for it. But again, they're going to face that choice. Do we do this now, or do we look at becoming Detroit? Because as we heard on the floor of the House, you had some pretty impassioned statements saying that, right now, Chicago is in a position where it very well could. These liabilities are so bad that if we don't address them now, you are looking at that kind of
Some
situation.
people are suggesting the mayor should look at other sources of revenue, including a possible transaction tax on the financial industry, which generates billions of dollars of profits here in Chicago.
There would be a huge pushback against that. Right now, Illinois has an unemployment rate of 8.7%. We're the second worst in the nation. Anything that is going to negatively affect the business climate is going to get a tremendous pushback. That same idea has been brought up in the past. I believe Governor Blagojevich had talked about that for a while. It's just never been very popular. There are other things that have been brought up, Mayor Emanuel has ruled out a city income tax. There has been talk of broadening the state sales tax to include services. That would bring in more money. I heard an alderman on the radio discussing a possible commuter tax where you would put a surcharge on non-City of Chicago residents who work in the City of Chicago.
Well, many other cities do that,
Right.
including Washington, D.C., which has budgets in a surplus and doesn't have our pension issues.
Correct.
So is that a possibility?
Again, I have not heard Mayor Emanuel address that directly. I think that he wants to go with the property tax plan that's in the current bill. I don't know what's going to come up in the future. But all these things have to be on the table.
Would
I
a
think.
casino help? Would that be enough, or was that just small potatoes in terms of raising the kind of revenue that's needed?
Well, Chicago eventually is going to get a casino, I believe, and this has been discussed for years, and that would help. But I don't think it's going to put it over. It's not going to be the cure-all that casinos for years have been billed as being.
And next year, the problem gets even worse because $600 million is due for police, fire, pensions, and the mayor, does he have any way to get around that?
That is imposed on him by a state law that was passed in 2010 that required those public safety pensions to be up to 90% funded by 2040. Right now, they're at 25% and 32%, which is miserable. They're supposed to be at 80%. He has no way of getting out of that. That's in state law. That's being imposed on him. And keep in mind, Chris, that the bill that is in Governor Quinn's hands right now has nothing to do with that. It only has to do with 2 of the 5 city pension funds, which covers the municipal workers and the laborers. So this was another thing that came up in the legislature. Point of objection was, you're coming to us now to pass this bill for you. What are you going to be asking us for next? We'd like to know all at one time, and that's why it ran into a big problem with the Republicans in the Senate, only one of whom voted for the bill that was eventually passed.
Very quickly, is there still enough time for Chicago to avoid becoming a Detroit in just a few seconds?
Yes, there is. It's going to take very, very tough political decisions. It's also going to take sacrifice on the part of employees, retirees, and unfortunately, taxpayers as well.
On that note, we'll leave it. Matt Dietrich, thank you very much for joining us.